In the hushed whispers of darkness, a chilling tale spreads like wildfire, weaving its way into the deepest recesses of our fears. The licked hand. This simple phrase conjures images of shadowy figures, unseen terrors lurking in the night, and a fear so primal it chills us to the bone. The legend speaks of an empty house, a raging storm, and a solitary soul seeking comfort in the dark. This is not just a story, it's a warning. The old house creaked and groaned under the onslaught of the storm, the wind howling like a banshee outside its walls. Inside, young Emma sat huddled on the sofa, her eyes wide with fear as she clutched her faithful golden retriever, Max, to her chest. The power had gone out an hour ago, plunging the house into an unsettling darkness. Emma's father was working late, leaving her alone to weather the storm. Max, sensing her fear, whined softly and licked her hand, his warm, familiar presence a small comfort in the growing darkness. But even Max's presence couldn't completely dispel the growing sense of unease that had taken root in Emma's heart. The storm outside seemed to be mirroring the turmoil within her. Hours seemed to crawl by, each one stretching into an eternity of darkness and dread. Emma dozed fitfully on the sofa, her dreams haunted by shadowy figures and the sound of her own racing heartbeat. Max, ever vigilant, kept watch at her feet, his ears pricked at every unfamiliar sound. A sudden flicker of movement outside the window jolted Emma awake. Her heart hammered in her chest as her eyes darted to the source of the disturbance. A flash of lightning momentarily illuminated the yard, revealing nothing but the wind-tossed trees and the driving rain.
It was just the storm, playing tricks on my overactive imagination.
But deep down, a primal instinct whispered a warning, urging her to be cautious. As the night wore on, the storm showed no signs of abating. It was then that Emma noticed a new sound, a subtle scratching that seemed to be coming from within the walls of the house. At first, she dismissed it as just another trick of the wind, but the sound persisted, growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. Max, too, sensed the change in the atmosphere. He whined softly, his body tense, his eyes darting around the room, as if searching for the source of the unsettling noise.
It's just a branch, Max. The wind must be blowing something against the house.
But even as she spoke the words, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the sound. The scratching continued, relentless and unnerving.
Determined to maintain some semblance of calm, Emma decided to make her way to the kitchen for a glass of water. Max, his tail tucked between his legs, followed closely at her heels, his warm body a reassuring presence against her leg. Reaching the kitchen, Emma fumbled for the light switch, but the power outage rendered it useless. She filled a glass with water from the tap, her hands shaking slightly, and took a long, slow drink, trying to ignore the persistent scratching. Max whined again, nudging her leg with his head as if sensing her growing fear. "It's okay, boy," she whispered, her voice muffled by his soft coat. "We're safe here." As Emma sat back down on the sofa, seeking comfort in Max's presence, the shrill ring of the telephone shattered the silence. Startled, she jumped, her heart pounding in her chest. Who would be calling at this late hour, in the middle of such a fierce storm? Trembling, she reached for the phone. "Hello?" she answered tentatively, her voice barely a whisper. A voice, distorted and distant, crackled through the receiver.
"Emma?" It was a man's voice, deep and unfamiliar, sending a fresh wave of fear coursing through her. You're in danger, Emma, the voice on the other end of the line whispered.
Who is this? She demanded, her voice a choked whisper. How do you know that?
It doesn't matter, the voice said, the urgency in his tone sending a shiver down her spine. Just listen to me. I'm calling from the police station. We received an emergency call from this number a few minutes ago.
An emergency call? But she hadn't made any calls. Her eyes darted to Max, curled up at her feet, his eyes closed, seemingly oblivious to the conversation. He couldn't have... Could he?
The caller... Well, they said there was an intruder in the house.
Emma's mind raced.
We found your dog, Emma. He was dead. Killed, it looks like. We found him in the basement about an hour ago.
But I didn't make any calls.
Emma, listen to me. We traced the call. It came from your house. And there's something else you need to know. Something that doesn't make sense. We found your dog, Emma. He was dead. Killed, it looks like. We found him in the basement about an hour ago.
Max? Dead? Killed? It couldn't be true.
Suddenly, Emma felt a warm, wet sensation on her hand. It was Max, licking her fingers, his rough tongue a familiar comfort against her skin. Relief washed over her, chasing away the terror that had threatened to consume her. But as she looked down at Max, a cold dread gripped her heart. Max was still curled up on the floor, his eyes closed, his body perfectly still. He hadn't moved. He hadn't licked her hand.
So then what, or who, had?
A low growl, guttural and menacing, seemed to rise from the shadows beneath the sofa. Emma's heart hammered in her chest, her breath catching in her throat. It was the sound that had haunted her nightmares, the sound that had sent shivers down her spine since she was a child. Paralyzed with fear, Emma slowly lowered her gaze, her eyes drawn to the dark space beneath the sofa. The growling grew louder, closer, sending waves of primal terror crashing over her. She knew with a certainty that chilled her to the bone that whatever lurked in the darkness below was the source of the lick, the source of the phone call, the source of all her deepest fears. Gathering all her courage, Emma forced herself to look, and in the faint light filtering in from the hallway she saw it. A hand, pale and skeletal, its fingers long and bony, emerged from the darkness. It reached for her ankle, its grip tightening like a vice, dragging her slowly, inexorably towards the abyss beneath the sofa. The horrifying realization of Max's lifeless form and the chilling lick on her hand sent a surge of adrenaline through Emma's veins.
Oh God, what is happening?
She scrambled back on the sofa, her eyes frantically searching the darkened room for any sign of the intruder. Her gaze fell upon the phone, lying on the floor where it had fallen from her grasp. The voice on the other end had said the police were on their way. A glimmer of hope flickered amidst the fear that threatened to consume her. Help was coming. She just had to stay calm, to stay hidden, to survive until they arrived.
Come on, Emma, just hold on a little longer.
Her gaze fell upon the heavy floor lamp standing beside the sofa. Gripping the cold metal base, she raised it above her head, her heart pounding in her ears.
I can do this. I have to.
As she took a tentative step towards the hallway, a flash of lightning illuminated the room. And that's when she saw it. A note, scrawled in what looked like blood, lay on the coffee table, right where Max had been sleeping just moments before.
What does it say?
With trembling hands, Emma reached for the note, her fingers brushing against the dried blood. The words, scrawled in a hand she didn't recognize, seemed to mock her, to taunt her with their chilling simplicity.
Humans can lick too.
The blood drained from Emma's face, leaving her feeling cold and hollow. It wasn't Max who had licked her hand. It was him, the intruder. He had been there all along, hiding in the shadows, watching her, toying with her. The scratching in the walls suddenly stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. It was as if whatever lurked in the darkness was holding its breath, savouring her terror.
Emma stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. She had to get out, had to run, had to escape the nightmare that had become her reality. The phone. She had to call for help. Frantically, she searched for her phone, her eyes darting around the room, but it was gone. Panic surged through her, threatening to overwhelm her. The scratching started again, this time coming from the hallway closer than before. He was coming for her. Desperately, Emma scanned the room for a hiding place, for anything that could offer even a moment's respite from the terror that stalked her.
The digital age, with its insatiable hunger for the macabre and the unexplained, became the breeding ground for the licked hand's resurgence. What was once whispered in hushed tones around flickering campfires or shared in the dimly lit corners of schoolyards had found a new, insidious life online. The legend, amplified by the echo chamber of social media, took on a life of its own, spreading like wildfire through the interconnected veins of the internet. Videos, their screens flickering with ominous static and distorted audio, surfaced on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. Teenagers, their faces pale with a mixture of fear and morbid fascination, recounted the legend, their voices barely a whisper above the eerie background music. Each retelling, each shared image added fuel to the fire, blurring the lines between reality and online folklore. The hashtag #LickedHandChallenge began to trend, a testament to the internet's ability to transform even the most chilling tales into a macabre form of entertainment. Users, seeking their 15 minutes of fame, filmed themselves in darkened rooms, their hands outstretched, waiting, daring something to emerge from the shadows to accept their challenge. What started as harmless fun, a digital dare fueled by teenage bravado, soon took a sinister turn. As the Licked Hand Challenge gained traction, so too did the stories of those who claimed to have experienced something truly terrifying, something that defied rational explanation. Whispers of strange occurrences began to surface in the comments sections of viral videos and online forums dedicated to the paranormal. Users reported feeling cold spots in their rooms, hearing unexplained noises, seeing fleeting shadows that vanished as quickly as they appeared. Some even claimed to have felt the phantom lick on their hand, a cold, wet sensation that sent shivers down their spines long after the cameras had stopped rolling. Warnings from skeptics and concerned parents were quickly drowned out by the growing chorus of believers, eager to share their own encounters, to prove that the legend was more than just a story. The line between reality and the virtual world blurred, the boundaries of fear stretched thin by the collective belief that something dark and dangerous had been unleashed. Section 3. The Ohio Incident. Then came the news that sent a chill through the online community, a chilling reminder that some games are best left unplayed, some legends best left undisturbed. In a small town in Ohio, a teenage girl, Emily Carter, became forever linked to the Licked Hand. Her story a cautionary tale of the dangers of tempting fate in the digital age. Emily, an avid fan of horror movies and online ghost stories, had been captivated by the Licked Hand legend. Egged on by her friends and the promise of online notoriety, she decided to take the challenge, to film herself in her darkened bedroom, her hand outstretched, inviting the unknown to make contact. The video, grainy and poorly lit, showed Emily sitting on her bed, her face illuminated by the glow of her laptop screen. She recounted the legend, her voice a mixture of nervous laughter and genuine fear, before extending her hand towards the camera, her eyes darting around the room, searching the shadows for any sign of movement. The video ended abruptly, cutting out just as a look of pure terror washed over Emily's face, replaced by a chilling static that seemed to crackle with an energy of its own. Section 4. Imitation or Reality. The video, uploaded to Emily's social media accounts with the hashtag #LickedHandChallenge, quickly went viral, shared and commented on by millions around the world. But what began as another chilling chapter in the licked hand legend soon morphed into something far more sinister, far more real. Emily Carter disappeared from her home that night. Her bedroom window found ajar, the room in disarray, as if there had been a struggle. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but Emily was never found, her disappearance remaining an unsolved mystery that haunted the small town and sent shockwaves through the online community. The police, initially dismissive of the licked hand connection, were forced to reconsider, the viral video becoming a chilling piece of evidence in a case that defied explanation. Had Emily simply run away, seeking to escape the unwanted attention her video had generated? Or had she become another victim of the licked hand, her disappearance proof that some legends are rooted in a terrifying reality? The question lingered, unanswered, a chilling reminder that in the digital age, where fantasy and reality intertwine, the lines between entertainment and genuine terror can become dangerously blurred. The licked hand, once a campfire tale, had taken on a new, insidious life, its reach extending from the darkest corners of the internet into the real world, leaving behind a trail of fear, uncertainty, and a chilling question. What happens when the legends we tell come looking for us? The licked hand, whether a figment of our collective imagination or a chilling glimpse into a darker reality, continues to cast a long shadow over the digital landscape. Emily Carter's disappearance, a stark reminder of the potential consequences of tempting fate, became a chilling footnote in the legend's ever-evolving narrative. The #Licked Hand challenge, once a viral sensation, faded into obscurity, replaced by a sense of unease, a lingering fear that what we invite into our lives, even in jest, can have unforeseen and terrifying consequences. The internet, once a playground for the macabre, became a haunted house, its corridors echoing with the whispers of those who had ventured too far, who had dared to look into the abyss and found something staring back. But the legend endured, its grip on our collective psyche too strong to be broken by a single tragedy. The stories continued to surface, whispered in online forums, shared in hushed tones around campfires, their tellers claiming to have encountered the licked hand, to have felt its cold, clammy touch. Each retelling, each shared image breathed new life into the legend, fueling the flames of fear and fascination that burned brightly in the darkest corners of the internet and in the deepest recesses of our minds. The licked hand, like all good horror stories, tapped into our primal fears, our innate terror of the unknown, of the darkness that lurks just beyond the reach of our understanding. It preyed upon our vulnerability, our fear of being alone, of being watched, of being touched by something that we cannot see, something that defies explanation. It reminded us that the line between reality and nightmare is often thin and easily breached, that the things that go bump in the night are often closer than we think, lurking in the shadows of our homes, in the depths of our screens, in the darkest corners of our minds. The legend's power lay not in its veracity, but in its ability to tap into our deepest fears, to make us question the shadows, to make us doubt our own senses. It whispered to us in the dead of night, its voice a chilling reminder that we are never truly alone, that something is always watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The licked hand, whether a harmless urban legend or a terrifying reality, served as a stark reminder that fear is a powerful force, one that can control our thoughts, our actions, and ultimately, our lives. The licked hand, beyond its ability to frighten and entertain, served as a haunting reminder of the power of storytelling, of our innate desire to create and share narratives that both reflect and shape our understanding of the world around us. The legend, passed down through generations, adapted and reshaped by each new teller, spoke to our need to make sense of the unexplainable, to find meaning in the chaos, to confront our fears through the safety of stories. The licked hand, with its chilling simplicity, its ability to tap into our primal fears, became a blank canvas onto which we could project our own anxieties, our own experiences, our own interpretations of the darkness that lurks both within and around us. It reminded us that stories, even those rooted in fear, have the power to connect us, to unite us in a shared experience, to make us feel less alone in the face of the unknown. So the next time you find yourself home alone on a stormy night, the wind howling outside your window, the shadows dancing in the flickering candlelight, remember the legend of the licked hand. Remember Emily Carter, her story a cautionary tale of the dangers of tempting fate. Listen closely to the sounds of your house, to the creaks and groans that accompany an old home settling into the night. And if you feel a cold, wet sensation on your hand, a touch that sends shivers down your spine, don't hesitate, don't scream, don't let the fear paralyze you. Turn on the lights, check under your bed, and remember, sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create in our own minds, the ones we give power to with our fears, the ones that linger long after the story has been told and the lights have been turned out.